make sure I got that going. Let's start it right at we got 6 seconds, so I'll mute. Go ahead and start it whenever you're ready.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right, hello everyone. Welcome to our inaugural APEC version of our webinar series, the Boost Your Autodesk Software, Boost Your Up and Ready Knowledge webinar series. What we're going to be discussing in today's webinar is how to boost your up and ready your Autodesk software installation knowledge. First, a little introduction as to who's going to be presenting it to you. I'm Jeremy Hansen, and Byron Morales is also here with me. He will be doing the presentation this evening or this morning, depending on where you're located. The format is going to be 30-minute presentation-ish. It may be a little shorter, a little longer, followed by about approximately 30-minute Q&A session, questions and answers. During the presentation, if you have any questions, you can put them in the questions section down near the bottom right of your screen there. Just type them in there and we'll answer them as we go along and then cover them in the QA session at the end. We have a series that we're going to be doing here. The first one is the Boost Your Autodesk Installation Knowledge. So basically going through how to install our software, what the different options are, maybe a little bit of troubleshooting in case you run into any issues with it. And then we'll be moving on to showing you how to use your Autodesk account, show you some features in there, and then we'll cover some network licensing issues and also how to read and use your network license files. Go on to the next screen here, Byron. And we actually have several webinars that we've done already in the Americas, and we have recordings of those up on our YouTube channel. There's a URL right there, not easy to see. We'll actually make this slide deck available on our Box account. It's actually up right now, but it will be available if you want to get it, and you can see all the links that we have in here. But we have like 21, I think, recordings up there on our YouTube channel of presentations we've done in the past. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Byron for the presentation.
Thank you, Jeremy. Welcome, everyone. Just so we will send you an email with this box information so you guys can download the slide deck, and you guys will have all this information there. But just I want to show you guys. Here's our YouTube channel here, and you can see all the recordings that we've done already. And so if you want to, you don't have to wait a month to find the network licensing troubleshooting. We already have one for you here that you can review, and there's several other ones as well. Also, to register for those upcoming webinars, we'll also send you an email with this information, and you can see the dates. They're all going to be around the same time as it is right now. So on December 9th, we're going to have your the next one, and then January 13th, the Autodesk Network Licensing one. So that's about our upcoming schedule. Let's go back to the slide deck. Okay. So now we're going to talk about successful product installation of the Autodesk software. What is that we need when we're trying to install the Autodesk software, and so it will be successful? First of all, we need a system that meets the minimum system requirements. Some of the Autodesk software does require more memory on the computer as others, so it's important that that you review those system requirements, and they're available on our website for each of our softwares. Also, the graphics card driver also has a lot to do with it, and on the performance of the software as well. We have some minimum system requirements, and also for the hardware, for specifically for the graphics cards there as well. Okay. So besides meeting these minimum system requirements, you will also need administrator privileges, credentials onto the computer for you to install the software. Why do we need these administrator permissions? Because the installation is going to be modifying, it's going to be creating folders under the computer, under this registry, and it's going to be setting up its own settings under the application. It's going to be stopping and running tasks. You may need to uninstall or reinstall the program, and therefore you will need administrator rights as well. User account control settings are recommended for you to be turned off while you do the installation as well. And also you'll need the installation software to install the software, right? So whether you have the installation media or you have downloaded the software. So let's start with a poll question here. And I'll start the poll right now. What download option do you mostly use when downloading the Autodesk software? And I'll start up poll right now. And go ahead and select. Thank you for all those responses. Thank you very much. We're going to wait another 15 seconds or so to give you the summary of what everybody responded. Okay. Thank you very much. So it's pretty much divided right now. I'm going to stop it now. And we have about So we have about 32% of you said install now, 35% of you said download now, 32% of you said browser download, and 50% of you guys say downloading via virtual agent. Those are all the available download methods for you guys to download the installation packages for you. And we're going to break it down into each one and what are the depositors of each one. Thank you for everyone that voted. And also, if all those are not working for you or for your specific environment, you can also request the installation media as well. So let's look at the install now. And the benefits, it's half of the speed, it's faster than the browser download. The reason for that is because what happens is the installation is looking at your computer and see what software it needs. Basically, it doesn't download all the system prerequisites because it recognizes the computer already has them, so it doesn't have to download it and uncompress those. And as it is downloading to your computer, it's also uncompressing and installing the software all at once. This is recommended if you're installing on a single computer. This installation package cannot be used for multiple computers, as each computer is going to have these different requirements. So if you're installing on your home computer or a single computer in the office, this is the fastest way to do it. What I mentioned was that you cannot create, you can only use it on one computer because you cannot create deployments of the install now. Later, if you install a service pack, you may need to re-download the installation package as well because it's going to require those installation files. But it's the fastest method. So if you're in a rush and you need to install the software, the install now options is there for you. The cool thing about install now is also the technology now is available where if your internet gets interrupted for a few seconds or a minute, when it reconnects, it will continue where it last left off. Install now does not mean install later, meaning that if you begin the install now today, and then for whatever reason you're going to go on vacation for the weekend, you stop it, and then you come back on Monday, it doesn't continue. It's only for a short disruption in service I think it's up to 15 minutes or so. Okay, download now. That's the next option there. So here you're downloading the whole, you're downloading the download manager first. The download manager then manages the download to your computer. And during this installation, when you select this, you can create deployments. There's the option there for you to create deployments. And you'll be able to see the progress as it goes. Now, browser download is by far what we recommend here in installation and licensing and support. And the reason for that is because it gives you total control of the installation files onto your computer. You're not using the download manager. The install now is not uncompressing while it's installing. Basically, it downloads the raw compressed installation files to your computer, at which point you can either save them on the network, save them on the server, save them on the external hard drive. Whatever you need to do, you have total control over the installation files. So here, it has its own build mechanism within the browser. So each browser is going to be different. It's going to, you will need to enable pop-up blocker to allow pop-ups, because each, for example, for a suite that has multiple parts, each part is going to pop up. Okay, and this is the download via the virtual agent. And this is also, if the previous three methods are via your Autodesk account, the download, the virtual agent, it's available on our website. You can go to autodesk.com/register, and you'll be able to see downloads via the virtual agent. And I'll see you. I'll give you a little demo here. But the download method is the same as the browser download. And by far, like I said, this is the best way to download the software. Use the browser download or the virtual agent, because this gives you total control over the installation file. So I'm going to give you a little quick demo here. If you go to autodesk.com/register, you can see there the virtual agent. You click on virtual agent, a new window is going to open up. On this new window, you select download links. And once you select download links, it's going to go and it's going to give you the options of the software that's available to download. Not all the software is available to download via the virtual agent, but most of it is. So let's say, for example, let's say AutoCAD LT. It's going to be under AutoCAD Products, AutoCAD LT, and you have the versions there. 32-bit, 64-bit, and you have 2015, 14, and 13, and also for the Mac. And if I select 64-bit, it's going to open up my browser mechanism. When this case is Chrome, and it's telling me that it's going to download a 1.3 gigabit file. Because it's using the download preferences from your browser, in Chrome it downloads to your downloads folder. Most of the browsers will download it to your browsers folder. So once it's in your browsers folder, we'll see later on what is the proper steps of how you install the software. But at least now you know where it is going to be located on your computer. Okay, so what happens if you select install now and nothing happens? It's a slow start to your download. Just be patient with it. It should start momentarily. Right now is looking at the system requirements. It's trying to figure out what your computer needs when you select install now. If you let it go for a few minutes, nothing happens, try a different browser. If you're connected over wireless, try to disconnect for wireless, try to connect on via the LAN network cable, or vice versa. If you tried it in the office and not working, try it from your home network or from your neighbors or local coffee shop or local library. Because you will need, there's some network requirements as is shown there. There's some ports that need to be enabled on the network. For the most part, because it's using HTTP, those ports will be available. But in some cases where the network is very restricted, you won't be able to use the install now. Therefore, that's why we recommend always browser download or from the virtual agent. Now, here's a screen. You have create deployment, install tools, and install. This tells me right off the bat that we use browser download or div download from the virtual agent or download now. The install now will not give you that option there to create a deployment. But if you select install, that's when you install it on a single computer, on that computer that you're running it on. If you want to create the deployment, that's when you want to create the same installation over multiple computers. And the install tools has the network license manager or the Autodesk CAD manager tools as well. Once again, I want to remind you guys, if you guys have any questions, to use the chat screen on the lower right-hand corner. So here's the installation of the Building Design Suite 2015, and it gives you all the different choices there of the software. A suite is composed of multiple software. During the installation, you can select to install all the software, or you can pick and choose which ones you need. In this case, Autodesk 3ds Max Design 2015 is not highlighted. You will have to select it. And if you notice the little drop-down arrows, it gives you more choices of what you can do within that specific software. Then it asks you to input the serial number, the type of licenses, whether it's standalone or network. In this case, it's network, and then it asks you for the server name. And when you click on the drop-down, it gives you other choices specifically to that software, whether you want to add some add-ins or other application choices. And then to the right, whether you can download a service pack or add other features there as well. Okay, so here's the general workflow. You already downloaded the software to your computer. It's under your downloads folder. You'll need to have administrator rights onto the computer. We recommend that you empty the temporary folder, and I'll show you why later. The temporary folder, it's %, temp, %, and then you'll be able to highlight all of them and delete all the contents there. You have we recommend that you disable your antivirus, that you disable or lower the user account control settings, specifically on Windows 8. Windows 8 was very noticeable for that. And then we suggest that you right-click on the installation file and you select Run as Administrator. But you'll say, Byron, why do I have to do that? I'm already logged in as administrator. I already turned the antivirus off. Why do I have to right-click on it and select Run as Administrator? Well, we don't know what permissions or restrictions are on the network or under your user profile. Even if you're an administrator, administrators may have restrictions on what they can and cannot do on the computer. So right-clicking in and select Run as Administrator gives it less room for errors there. Okay, so here is why we recommend that you guys turn off, that you clear your temporary folder. The reason for that is because when you install the software, it creates some logs. It creates a setup log, an install log, and it saves it on those locations. And those are very useful for us when we're trying to troubleshoot them. And they're also very useful for you as well. So what happens during the software installation? As I mentioned before, the program is going to write files to the computer. You can see there's some files. A lot of customers request, can I install on a different drive besides my C drive? Yes, you can point the installation file to a different drive on the computer, but there are some folders that are still going to write on the C drive. And these are the folders that are written on the C drive. And it's also going to write to the registry as well. And those are the locations where it writes to the registry. That is why we need to run it as administrator and have administrator rights to install the software. Okay, so here's another poll question. And I'm going to start it right now. What are the software prerequisites needed to install the Autodesk software? Okay, 6 more seconds. 6 more seconds. I'm going to stop the poll. Okay, so here's very interesting. There's no wrong answer here. We have 45% saying that you need .NET Framework and DirectX. 47% of you said that you needed .NET Framework, DirectX, and Visual C++. And those are all correct. You need all three of them for the software to install. These are our software prerequisites. And this was what I was mentioning earlier with the install now option. If the computer goes and the installation sees that you already have Visual C++, it's not going to download it to your computer and extract it and run it because it recognizes that it's there. The browser download or the download manager or virtual agent installers already have that in the package, in the compressed file. So when you extract it, it already has those for you, which is very handy when you're troubleshooting it or you need to uninstall and reinstall those prerequisites. You also need DirectX, especially for the graphic intensive software, and most definitely you need .NET Framework. Okay, so how do I troubleshoot issues with my software prerequisites? Okay, this is what we recommend, and in this workflow it works the best. If you uninstall the Visual C++ packages, we recommend that you install them from newest to oldest. That means you uninstall 2012, 2010, 2008, 2005. You reinstall them from oldest to newest, and those can be located on your third-party folder. Once it extracts, the installation will be under C, Autodesk, third-party tools, and then you will see those Visual C++. Obviously, if you have the installation media, it will be in your installation media on the same path as well. And then once you do that, we recommend that you run the .NET Framework, and you either select repair or reinstall. You never want to uninstall .NET Framework and reboot the computer. Never do that. What we always do is run the .NET Framework, and we select repair or reinstall. Once you've done that, now you can reboot the computer, you turn your antivirus off, you clear the temporary folder, and then you attempt to reinstall the Autodesk software. Here's another question. Have you ever looked at the setup log or install log to troubleshoot an installation issue? Let me give you that question here. How many of you have ever looked at the setup log or the install log to troubleshoot an installation issue? Okay, I think most of you already answered, so I'm going to close it here. And 53% of you said that you have looked at the setup log or the install log. And that's very brave of you guys. That's awesome. And we're going to go into detail why we need this. So have you guys ever seen this? You're installing the software and everything seems to be going good. There's only one item out of 4 remaining, and then it goes to this. Uh-oh, what happened? Whoa, why did it fail? Where did it fail? What happened? Do you see this this highlighted ones here? It says install log file. The installation log file, there's one for Revit, one for Revit content libraries, one for AutoCAD, and one for Recap. And this is where the log files, they come to the rescue. So we have a setup log and we have an install log. A setup log, just like it says here, is a summary of everything that I was installing. Hey, I was installing Revit 2015 and it failed. Great. Thank you, setup log. Why did it fail? Well, you need to look at the install log. The install log gives you detailed information of each product and why it failed. Oh, I failed because Visual C++ 2012 wasn't there and I was not able to install it. So the setup log gives you a general information. Hey, I was trying to do this. The install log tells you specifically what it was doing. Both of these files are located on the temporary folder, and that is why before the installation we recommend that you guys turn it temporarily clean up your temporary folder because it's going to write the setup log and the install log there. So it's very easy for you to find them if you have cleaned that temp folder before. The naming convention is the same. It's going to have the name of the product that you're installing, and it's going to have a setup log or an install log at the end. Okay, so let's say you do open up the setup log in Notepad. The easiest way is you do a search. You will do a search for fail, failed, or failure. You can also look at rollback. You do a search for rollback, and you will look at the very line above the rollback. What happened before it started rolling back? It usually will give you an error that it gave either an error number or an error message there. The install log is also on the same location on the temp folder. It also has the same naming convention of the product name and then install.log. Each installation component has its own install log. Okay, so you can definitely open both of them using Notepad, and you can do a search for disable rollback, return value, failure, failed. There's also other utilities that some of my coworkers use, like WI logs utility. It's included on Windows. You can also do a search there, and there's other topics you can search like MSI error messages as well. So what are the most common error messages that you encounter with the Autodesk software? Well, there's several. Most of them are Windows installation errors. Like 1303. That can be an user account control settings or antivirus. 1321, you don't have permissions to write to the registry. 1324, that more likely is because you have roaming profiles. You have the user profile pointing to a map drive. The same thing with 1325. The Autodesk software does not support roaming profiles or folder redirection. But we have a good community of the Autodesk community is very big, and we are very helpful. Where there's other users, other customers that are already running into they're running a roaming profile, and they already put their workarounds in our community forums, and how you can overcome that. And there's other, 1402 through 1406. Those are restricted permissions. Once again, you don't have permissions to install the software. Here's the infamous 1603, 1606, 1609 Windows errors, which are not very, they're not very intuitive. They're not very specific what's going on. So you need to go into the setup log and the install log, and when it says the setup log will say AutoCAD 2015 could not install. I was trying to install Visual C++. And then you go into the install log and it says, 1603 in the Visual C++ 2012. Then you know that the package for the Visual C++ 2012 is the one that is giving you the problem. You can manually uninstall and reinstall and see if you have any problems there. Here's our other error messages here. especially this one is very common with the service packs. 1624, that means you couldn't find the original MST files, and you will, that more likely because you use the install now browser instead of the browser download, and that's what I was referring to earlier. If you use that method, you have to re-download the software, extract it, and then you'll be able to run the service pack installation. Okay, so now that you found the error messages, what do you do with it now? Well, we have a wealth of knowledge. You have the knowledge.autodesk.com. You have the main autodesk.com website. You have our up and ready blog site, and you have our forums. We have tons of information in there. So if you don't want to search in 4 different places, just go to autodesk.com. There's a search box there, and just type in error 1603 on AutoCAD, and you'll get information from our knowledge base and from our forums that you can go and take a look at it as well. And if all else fails, you're welcome to open a support case with us, and we'll be glad to help you with that as well. So at this point, I think I was talking too fast. That's what Jeremy told me. Sorry about that. If you have any questions, please, we're going to open it now, and we're here to answer any questions that you guys have in regards to the installation, downloading of the Autodesk software.
All right, so we do have a few questions so far. Again, if you have any questions at this point, go ahead and type them down into the questions section, and we'll try to get those answered for you. Let's go through a few that we've had asked already, just to kind of cover them. Have a user with a question. I need to install multi-seat standalone for 100 PCs, and the place doesn't have a network. Can I create a deployment and save it to an external USB, then plug and run from the USB? If not, what is the best option? So yes, you can do that. Just keep in mind there's a difference between a USB flash drive and a USB hard drive. Flash drives sometimes have issues. They will sometimes accept files to read only, and just can have some issues with it that way. So I definitely just recommend that you use an external USB hard drive as opposed to a flash drive, one of the little thumb drive things. And also keep in mind that some updates, service packs, will require access to the original install files. So as Byron showed with that error 1624, that's likely the one you would see if the service pack needs access to the original install file. So then you'd need to plug that USB drive back into that computer to install certain service packs. You're not going to get that with all service packs, but some do require access to the original install files. All right, so let's move on to another question here. Is we constantly have an issue with installs of different Autodesk software due to .NET framework versions. Is there any way of preventing this? If the issue is that it's trying to install .NET and the install's failing on that, other than going in and uninstalling or repairing .NET and then seeing if that fixes the issue, one thing you can do is if you edit the setup.ini file, which is in the root of the install files, so the same place where you'd run setup.exe, open that file in Notepad, just do a search for .NET, and that's spelled out, so DOTNET, and just delete any references that you see to .NET in there. Anything that contains .NET in it doesn't just have to be specifically .NET and nothing else, because there's some .NET service packs that will be in there also. Just remove all those references, and it will not try installing .NET during the installation of Autodesk software. One other thing you might see with .NET is if you're trying to install on either Windows 10 or if you've installed .NET 4.6 on Windows 7 or Windows 8, with certain Autodesk products, you'll get an error saying that .NET 4.5 is not installed. The reason for that is the installer is looking for either .NET 4.5 or newer, and its definition of newer is 4.5 point something. So it can't recognize 4.6 as being a newer version than .NET 4.5. So we actually have an article that's in the answer to the question there if you want to look at it in there. That covers various options. There's a few ways you can get around that error. The quickest, if you're only installing on one or a few computers, is to go in and edit the registry and change the .NET version to 4.5, install the Autodesk software, go back in the registry and change it back to the original version of .NET 4.6, and that'll get around that particular issue. And I have a question of, if you decide not to install all of the products in, say you're installing a suite and you decide to only install certain products, can you go back in and install the ones at a later time that you decided not to install originally? Yes, absolutely you can. Just run the installer again. It'll detect which ones you already have installed and it'll kind of gray those out. It'll have an installed next to them in the list of products, and you'll only be able to select the ones that you haven't installed yet. So just place a check mark next to whichever one you want to install and it will install it. And I had a question about where the product name install.log is located. Again, all logs, both setup and install logs, those are going to be created in the Windows temp folder. So just open any Windows Explorer window and type %temp% up in the address bar. That'll take you into the temp folder. And we got a few new questions that have come in here. Let's see, Autodesk Application Manager. Network admins would like the AAP, maybe it's supposed to be AAM, to be deployable and configurable via System Administrator. I'm not sure exactly what that question is asking. I'm not sure what the AAP is in that question. So let's move on to another one here. If power fails after installing the few components of a suite and we try to resume, you're not able to resume the install. Yeah, that's likely going to be true depending on how far it got into the install. Whichever one it was working on when the power failed, it's going to be partially installed. And so when you try to run the installer again, it's going to see, there's going to be enough of an installation in there for the installer to think it's already installed, and it won't let you install it again. Microsoft actually has a very handy fix-it tool that will let you clean out the installs that got messed up by the power failure. So if you just do a search, Google search for, it's weird wording, they don't use good English on it, but here's what you want to search for. It's fix problems that programs cannot be installed or uninstalled. Again, that's fix problems that programs cannot be installed or uninstalled. That'll take you to a Microsoft page where they have a fix-it tool. Just run that. That'll show you a list of all the products installed in your computer. It does kind of a deep search through the registry and finds the software that's installed on there. You should see the ones that were trying to be installed when the power went out. Just move them from there, and then you should be able to run the install again and get those installed. All right, here's another question. Can we change the standalone installation to a network installation? Usually the answer is no, unless without doing an uninstall or reinstall. If it's an AutoCAD-based product, there's actually a registry entry that normally you can go in and change. It's just either 1, 2, or 3 will tell it whether it's a standalone network or multi-sig standalone. And so you can go in there and do that. I suggest go to Autodesk.com, do a search for network to standalone, or standalone to network, whichever way you want to do it. In either way, you're going to come up with an article that will show you which registry key to go in and change. It doesn't work 100% of the time, and it's only AutoCAD-based stuff. Sometimes Inventor can also, but usually just an AutoCAD-based product, it will usually work for. Anything else, like if it's a suite that includes a bunch of non-AutoCAD software, you will likely need to do an uninstall and reinstall to get that switched over to network. I got another question here. Why is it necessary to clear the temp folder to uninstall and install Autodesk? So it's not strictly necessary normally, but it makes it much easier if you run into any problems to find the log files if you don't have a bunch of thousands of other files in your temp folder. And also there can be some issues with files in the temp folder. If there's some corruption in there, that can actually cause an install to fail as well. There's actually some instances where we have to either log in as a different user or temporarily move the location of the temp folder in order to get the software to install correctly, because there are issues with the regular temp folder on there. So it's best practice to clear out the temp folder. You're welcome to try the install without clearing it out, but to minimize your chances of running into issues, we suggest clearing out the temp folder. So not strictly necessary, but definitely a good idea. And let's move on to the next question here. They're coming in fast and furious, so excellent. Glad we have all these questions. We have offices in different states with different drive path preferences. Is there an easy way of creating deployments with wildcards referencing these drives without having to edit INI files? Sadly, the answer is no. There's not an easy way to do that. The wildcards, the installers don't really play nice with wildcards, so that's a situation where it's pretty much a manual process to do that. Not an easy way to do that. All right, and let's move on to the next question. Let me take a look here.
I can help you with that one, Jeremy. So is it possible to change the serial number of the already installed product? And there's two answers to that. The short answer is if you're able to launch the software, you go to help, about, product information. There you'll be able to change the serial number. If you want to change it without going there, or the software doesn't launch, you have to uninstall and reinstall with the proper serial number. The next question that we have is, after the installation of a standalone product, shall I convert it to a network license? Yes, you can, depending on the software that you're referring to. AutoCAD, yes, you can go and we have a registry entry that you can go and change. Even though we don't support it, we recommend that you uninstall and reinstall as network, but you are able to change it from standalone to network if you need to. You just need to go through extra steps to point the software to a server by creating a license linkpath.lick file that points to the server. There's the next error, please insert CD, and more likely than not that has to do with the browser download, whether it got corrupted or you didn't get all the files. So you will need to re-download the software and then relaunch the installation, and you shouldn't run into that insert CD error anymore. Any more questions? Please enter them in the lower right-hand corner, please. Thank you.
All right, so let's move on to the next one here. It's every time I try to download and install an Autodesk Design Suite Premium, a temp file with a folder is created automatically, but this doesn't happen on any other suite or any other installer. You're probably going to need to open a support case on that. I'm not really sure what's going on there. I haven't heard of that particular issue. Byron, have you seen that one before? It's not something I'm familiar with.
A temp file with a folder is created automatically. No, I will, just go back to the basics. Clear temporary files. Make sure you have a browser download installation, not install now, not download manager. You right-click on the installation file and select Run as Administrator. At that point, you'll recreate a new setup log and install log, and then you can look in depth there and see what the problem may be. Please note that those suite products, they have multiple parts to them. So depending on what your version, they may have 4 or 5 parts. You need to have all those parts downloaded to the same folder on the computer. they're going to be named Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, Part 4, Part 5. All you need to do is right-click on the first part, Part 1, right-click on it and select Run as Administrator. This will automatically extract all the other parts and begin the installation process for you. But all those parts need to be grouped together in the same folder in the computer, okay?
All right, let's move on to the next question here. We've created deployment of the standalone installation on the server. Works fine on most of the clients, but on some of the clients it does not work. We need to run the standalone installation on the client with the installation disk. So it means the client was able to meet the minimum system requirements. What is wrong with the deployment? Well, there can be a number of things that can cause that to happen. It could be simply that there was a connectivity issue when you're trying to install from the deployment. Without seeing the logs, that's going to be something that's really hard to tell what's going on with the install. Not really sure what else could cause that without, like I said, without seeing the log files. That's something that's really not going to be easy to tell what's going on in that instance. So if you're getting that, if you get that again, I would say open a support case. We can get the install logs from you and take a look. It'll have an error message in there, and we can hopefully see what exactly is causing that. And we'll move on to the next one here. Do 2016 products already support Windows 10? Some have official support with the AutoCAD-based products. That was actually just added recently with the Service Pack 1 for AutoCAD. It now officially supports Windows 10. Most of the 2016 products will work fine on Windows 10. There are some that don't still have official support for it, but it will likely work fine. Most of them were coming out with the service packs for to add official support for it. But like I said, the AutoCAD-based ones, yes, there's definitely official support for Windows 10, but most products will work fine on it, just maybe not officially considered supported on Windows 10. And I have a clarification here. So the previous question where it was AAP, and I wasn't sure what that meant, it is AAM, so Autodesk Application Manager. So let's go back to that one real quick here. So network admins would like the Autodesk Application Manager to be deployable and configurable via the system administrator. Yes, that would be very nice. There's actually some configuration you can do with that. You can there's ways to set up a well, when you do a deployment, you can have a few more options for how you deploy the application manager, and you can actually deploy it with a custom INI file. So it'll, like, say if you have your updates downloaded to a central location, you can push out those settings to all the computers. We actually have an article for where to do that, and I'll look that up and I'll answer that in the question in here once we're done with the QA stuff. I'll see if I can find that article and paste the link for it in there for you so you can see the details on how to get that done. All right, and what is the best practice to uninstall an AutoCAD product with all registry and user profile app data? So we have kind of a generic how to do an uninstall, clean uninstall of Autodesk software article that's good for most of our products. There you go, right there. Byron has it up very nice on the screen there. So if you look at the screen, Byron has the page there for how to uninstall Autodesk products. Some products we have specific articles for that product. I think there's one for like Revit has its own article. I'm not sure what our products. So first thing I'd do is just search for your product name and do like clean uninstall. So like Revit clean uninstall. But if that fails, just come here and do these steps in this article, because this will work for almost all of our products pretty much. All right, so I'm using a licensed AutoCAD to a Windows-based computer. Can I transfer the license to my MacBook laptop? Yes, so AutoCAD has cross-platform licensing. So if you buy an AutoCAD license, you can install it on your Mac as well. You do get, if like you can install it on one workstation and one laptop. so you wouldn't necessarily need to uninstall it from the Windows computer in order to install on your laptop. You can't have it running on both at the same time, but it's kind of designed for, so you have an office computer that's a big desktop that you do most of your work on, but then you need a laptop to take with you as you're traveling. That's kind of the situation that's designed for. So you could install it on both. But as far as the basic question of can you install a Windows license of AutoCAD on a Mac computer, yes, absolutely, you can do that. It's got cross-platform licensing for that. All right, so if you have no network connectivity, how will you get the Revit content library? Well, yes, that is one of the unusual products to get installed, whereas Revit, in the Revit installer, it installs the Revit content libraries, but it is not included in the Revit download. So during the install process, it has to go and download the Revit content from the Autodesk server during the install. We actually do have the Revit content up on, I believe it's Dropbox. So what I'll do is I'll find the link to that, and I will put that into the question section here. I'll give you the link to that, so you could download it, put it on, a USB drive, and then use that for the install. So it doesn't have to download it over the network during the install there. All right, let's move along here. So we have 2 more questions that we haven't answered yet. So if you have any more, it looks like we have 3. Excellent. So I'll go ahead and just keep putting questions here if you have any more. Can I change the server name after I finish installing using a network deployment? Yes, you can. There is a few changes to the registry that you have to make, and there's just a couple different things here. If you can move the deployment from one server to another, but it sounds like what you're specifically asking is maybe you're going to keep it on the same server, but you're just going to change the name of it. And so there's a couple of things. So if you change the name of the server and it's your license server that you're changing, you have to change where the software is pointing to pull the license. And Byron has that up on the screen here. Basically, you can either update all of the lickpath.lic files, so that if you're not familiar with it, each product that has a network license has a text file in the root directory where it's installed, called lickpath.lic, that points to the license server. But instead of updating every single one of those, you can add an environment variable called ADSK flex _ license _ file and point that at the new license server, or the new license server name if it's the same server that you're just renaming. And then that will kind of trump all the lickpath files on there. It'll take precedence over the lickpath files and point all the software on the computer to the new license server. But also, you're going to have to change so that the deployment will still work. When you want to install on more computers, you'll need to change the deployment, the shortcuts, the paths in it to point to the new server name. So we actually have an article that shows how to get that updated as well. And there's more. so as you see, there's a lot to the whole renaming the server thing here. In order for the software to see the original install files, when, like, say, you're installing an update, it's going to look for the install files at wherever the software was installed from. And if you've changed the name of the server since the software was installed, it's going to be looking for the old name of the server. So you have to go into the Windows registry and modify some keys in there to point to the new server name. So it can get complicated if you're doing a server rename, after you've already done an install with a deployment from that server. So just things to be aware of. We have articles for all of those things. So just go to autodesk.com, do a search for, trying to remember what exactly the wording is for the changing the install location, but it's basically change the install source. So that'll find the article for you. Change the install source, and then move deployment. It would be the one for if you're needing to update the deployment to point to a new server name. All
So
right.
Jeremy, I have another question for you.
Yep.
It says there's individual products that are available on 32 bits only, while suites are available for 64 bits only. Is it possible to load a suite on 32 bits OS?
So some products are only available in 64-bit. Usually you can run the suite installer, but you will see a bunch, well, not a bunch, but whatever programs in that suite are only available in 64-bit will not show up as being available to install. So for instance, Revit 2016, 2015, those are only available in 64-bit. So if you install a suite that includes Revit, when it shows you the list of all the products that you can select to install, you won't even see Revit listed on there. It'll just not even show up because it's not available in 32-bit. If you're on 32-bit Windows, it knows that it's not going to be able to be installed in there, so it doesn't even show it up as an option on there. So yes, usually you can. Most suites, if you actually look at the file name, it'll say 32-64 in the file name. So the installer will work on 32-bit or 64-bit, but a lot of products you're probably not going to be able to install if they're only available in 64-bit. So if you look at the system requirements for the products, just go to Autodesk.com, search for system requirements for Revit 2016. It'll show you whether it's available in 32-bit or 64-bit or both. All right, let's move on to
the next question is how does an installer determine whether you have a desktop or a laptop?
I'm not sure I get the question exactly. I mean, it doesn't really determine if you have a desktop or a laptop. It looks at your graphics card, for instance. If you have a mobile graphics card, you're obviously going to have a laptop, but it doesn't so much care about whether it's a laptop or a desktop. So I'm not really sure I get that question. Byron, am I missing something that you're seeing?
No, right. So I agree with you. He's got a processor. He's got a desktop processor on a laptop. The installer, as long as it meets the system requirements, it doesn't differentiate whether you have a desktop or a laptop as long as you're able to run it. And then we have another question here. I installed the new AutoCAD 2015, but I could not start the program because there's a fatal error. And Abhishek, we do have a knowledge base article on that one. And let me pull it up real quick. And it's you run this auto runs, and that should help you bypass that error message.
And if you go to Autodesk.com and just search for that exact error number, the 0xC000142, that'll pull up the article, which Byron's not there. Well, that one will work. So there's two errors that mean basically the same thing. So that 0xC00005, there we go, the 142. So basically that's usually a third-party DLL that is interfering with the Autodesk software. Sometimes it'll be a certain component of Adobe Acrobat. It could be an older version of a graphics driver where you just need to update the graphics driver. But this auto runs program will actually point you to the file that is causing the issue. A lot of times it could be forms of malware that are causing the issue also. So sometimes you can just go in and rename the file that it shows there. Or other times you have to go in and uninstall the malware if that's what's causing it. But it's pretty much always a DLL from some other program that's interfering with things.
And we have another question from Arun Kumar. In general, will some of the older versions of the Autodesk products that don't have a current or latest version available as of date, will this be default install on Windows 7 or Windows 8?
Let me read that again. I didn't really understand the question.
I'm assuming older software, will they install on Windows 7 or Windows 8?
Oh, well, it depends on how old. If you look at the system requirements, that's going to be your best bet for telling whether it's going to work on Windows 7 or Windows 8. I mean, if you're trying to install, AutoCAD 2000, on Windows 7 or Windows 8. Obviously, there are newer versions of AutoCAD, so not a great example in this case. But something where it's so old that the version of Windows that you're trying to install on wasn't even out, when that software was being sold, then chances are it's probably not going to work on Windows 7 or Windows 8. But definitely check the system requirements. That's going to tell you whether it's supported on that version of Windows or not. Sometimes we'll have service packs that'll add support for new versions of Windows, like with Windows 10 and AutoCAD 2016. But other times, if it's such an old piece of software that, like I said, that version of Windows hadn't even come out yet, then check the system requirements. That's the best thing I can tell you. So let's try to cruise through these as fast as we can here because we're up against our hour. So let's try to breeze through the last ones here. Is there still an issue with path links on 2015 deployments? The answer is yes. It's actually a Windows path limit. It's not anything to do with our software specifically. Windows has a 256 character path limit length. So path length limit. So if some of the suites have very long paths in them, long file names, and so if you're going to hit the 256 character limit, then absolutely. So if you're creating a deployment, try to have it as short of a path as you can because the deployments themselves have very long paths already built in. And so that's going to cause issues if you have long paths yourselves. But again, that's a Windows limitation. That's not a limitation with our software specifically. And all right, so it looks like we're up against the end of our hour here. So thank you very much. We had a lot of great questions. I'd like to thank you all for attending. Made our first APAC webinar a pretty fun deal here. That's a great turnout. Have any last words, Byron?
Just the last one for Deepak. If the suite is not installing your 32-bit installations, you will have to download each one individually for AutoCAD 32-bit. For any other application that you need to download for 32-bit, our installers are on their browser download, and you'll be able to download the 32-bit installer from there. So thank you very much, everyone, for coming. We'll look forward to seeing you guys in our future webinars. Hopefully, this was informative for you guys. And we look forward to seeing you again. We'll send you an email with the slide deck, the location for our YouTube channel. I look forward to seeing you guys there as well. Thank you very much. Have a good evening, guys, or good day to you guys.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.